super excited to be here. This is my first time in Tel Aviv, first time in Israel, and first time interacting with this audience. So I'm very excited. So the topic of my talk is really a mouthful, accounting automation in QuickBooks. So let me double click on what I mean. So first, QuickBooks is an Intuit product. It's basically a financial accounting software to help small business do their accounting, manage their payroll, payment, invoice, and so on. And then accounting automation, yes, thank you. So accounting automation, what is it? We all know what accounting is. Accounting is a process that small business need to go through. And it is through accurate accounting that business can get an insight of how well their business is doing. And then accounting automation refers to the process of leveraging a system, leverage machine learning to automate some of these accounting tasks. So I acknowledge the fact that accounting is not a very exciting topic by itself to average people. So what we are seeking to do is to take that burden off the shoulder of our business owners. Okay, so Intuit's mission is powering prosperity around the world. So we do our best in helping our customers. And then the goal of accounting automation is right in the center of this circle. Basically, this is our aspiration goal. We want to deliver to our customers more money, no work, and complete confidence. And you may say, well, complete confidence is not achievable. Yes, I agree with you. But this is our aspirational goal. We want to go towards that target state as close as possible. So I have four sections of my talk. First, I want to show you why accounting automation is necessary for small businesses. And then I'll walk you through our QuickBooks, I'll walk you through our QuickBooks product, take you down to an end-to-end journey with QuickBooks, and show you how we leveraged AI and machine learning to deliver this goal. And then, given that this is a technical audience, we'll do a deep dive on transaction categorization and transaction review. And finally, I want to zoom out to see beyond accounting automation, what are the other AI ML work that our AI team has been doing. So first, I want to give a bit of context on why accounting automation is necessary for small businesses. So small businesses, for us, we work in big companies and we live a 9 to 6 life. And sometimes we idealize the concept of running a small business. We say, oh, I would like to open my photographer studio because it will give me more creativity, it will give me more flexibility and more autonomy. All of these are true. But the small business owners, on the other hand, they also face the real world challenges. And actually, this is shocking statistics. The survival rate for small business is actually surprisingly low. So 1/2 of the companies, they don't live beyond their 5th year. So half of them would fail, only half of them would continue beyond their 5th year. So this is actually shocking. And that means they face many, many challenges. So what are the challenges that they are facing? 1/3 of the customers, they actually want to handle the cash flow problems. And then 15% of them, they struggle with marketing and advertising. How do I make words out there that I'm in this business? And then 13%, 13% struggle with time management. 13% struggle with recruiting and keeping their employees. 13% struggle with administrative work. And then 6% they struggle with managing their benefits. So there are many, many things that small businesses are struggling to survive. And they will say, well, accounting is not one of them. Yes, it is. Accounting is not on this top challenge list. However, accounting is both time-consuming and error-prone. So typically, there are many, many transactions that you need to record, and then you need to record them very accurately, because otherwise your books got screwed up, and then you are struggling with your tax time. So accounting is normally considered as a chore. Nobody open a photographer studio because they love accounting, and now they get the time to do accounting. That doesn't happen. So we want to take that accounting burden off the shoulder of our customers. So now how do we do that? Let me walk you through the journey of QuickBooks. I want you to imagine yourself as the owner of your small business, whatever that is, daycare, restaurant, your choice. And then imagine yourself in the shoes of the business owner. So obviously your step number one is to set up your business. And in doing that, the first thing that you need to do is to set up something called chart of account, which is a list of accounts that you would like to organize your business. And right here, you are struggling. You say, okay, how do I set up my account? If I screwed it up, then all the downstream reporting, all the downstream insights and tax, those are screwed up. So the technique that we are using is natural language processing. Basically, we allow our customers to tell us in plain natural language what they want, and then the system would recommend the suitable chart of account based on accounting principles. So that gives user the ease of mind. And then we also use few-shot learning. Basically, QuickBooks have so many companies, and then we can find the population that is similar to your business, and then that knowledge can be used to set up your account, and that's few-shot learning. Now your account has been set up. The next step is to connect QuickBooks with your bank. And this is where the floodgate opens. By floodgate, we mean that the moment that you connect with your bank, suddenly thousands of transactions would flow from your bank into QuickBooks. And then the next step is that you need to get these transactions right, meaning that you need to associate for each of the transactions what is the best account to put that into. And then the technique that we are using is a recommender system. And I think the previous talk is on recommender system, and Professor Shapira is talking about the interplay between academia and industry. So you can consider that as the application of recommender system. We also enable personalized recommendations, and that's through transfer learning. So I'll be talking about, be doing a deep dive on this section. The next step is now the transactions have been categorized. How do I review them? Normally, this is a month process. So every month, the small business owner like you would get onto the QuickBooks system, and then you review them. The trouble with reviewing is that there are so many transactions, thousands of transactions every time for you to review one by one. And this is a very mental energy draining job. The machine learning technique is that we leverage confidence score to help user in this reviewing process. So not all transactions are created equal. Some are more complex than others. So we use confidence score from our machine learning models to help to focus user attention on the transactions that really demand it. And then finally, when tax time comes, then people need to be confident about tax. And actually, this is the work of Noah, who is sitting over there. Yeah. Okay, now down to a deep dive in transaction categorization and transaction review. So what is the transaction categorization problem, and why do we consider it as a recommender system application? Okay, so basically, the moment that you connect with your bank, thousands of transactions would flow into the QuickBooks system. So the QuickBooks banking page pretty much looks like your bank statement. So you have transactions like what time it happens, what is this transaction about? For instance, it's about AT&T, and then like $80-something, $100 from AT&T. The system would need to provide automatically provides the category match. So for instance, it was say AT&T is utilities. Now for users, they have two choices. They say, if I'm happy with this category recommendation, then things are easy. I just hit this add button and this transactions got added, recorded into my books. On the other hand, if the system got wrong, then the user need to say, okay, I'm not happy about the system provided categories. Now I need to associate my choice of the categories. So the user basically overrides the system. The process of user overriding the system, that takes more effort. So it's typically, like 30 seconds at least of hesitation to figure out what is the category that I really want. So now you get the sense of user workload here. So add is one click and overriding takes multiple, at least 30 seconds, sometimes a few minutes. So it's very important for the system to get it right, basically to populate this category column as accurately as possible. Now there are multiple challenges. The challenge number one is the sense of scale. So every user, they typically have thousands of transactions and hundreds of accounts. And coming to our entire user base, we are talking about millions of customers, billions of transactions, and hundreds of millions of accounts. So having a recommender system working at that scale, it's a challenge by itself. And secondly, it's the need for personalization. So every company has its own accounting needs. Let me give you an example. So company A may be perfectly satisfied to have one account called cars and trucks for all its vehicle-related expenses. On the other hand, company B may want to have more details. They say, no, I don't want cars and trucks as an umbrella account. In fact, I want much finer grain detail. I may have an account called gas. I may have another account called vehicle maintenance. And if that's the case, then suitable transactions, they need to be put into the suitable accounts. So that's the challenge of personalization. To tackle this problem, we actually devised a three-layered approach, and I'll walk you through one by one. So the first thing is basically a population model. So what is a population model? The population model, basically, it is the association between a transaction, and the transaction has all these details like amount, date, description, and so on. And then it tries to associate the right the right account, the best account within the user's chart of account, within all the possible accounts, and then try to devise this mapping function. So we consider that as a recommender system. It's not the interplay between user and item. Rather it is the interplay between transactions and accounts. So the structure is as the following. So this is basically the DSSM type recommender system design. So it's a twin tower structure. So on the left, we have transactions going through featureization to have transaction embedding. On the right, we have the accounts. These are typically natural language-based accounts, such as cars and trucks. And then it also goes through a vectorization approach to get the account vector. And from here, you have the symmetry between the transactions and accounts. And then we devise neural network layers on top of it to process the transaction on the left and then account on the right. And on top of that, we also have the concatenation as well as the element-wise product to learn the interplay between transactions and accounts. And finally, it goes through a sigmoidal layer to get a binary variable, which is match or no match. So the system basically goes through all the accounts within the chart of account and then pick up the best matching account for any given transaction. So this model is called the population model because it is trained on many users' data. So user A, user B, user C, and together with millions of users in our training data set. So for basically what the model does is it explores the common pattern between the transaction and account mapping, and then provide the recommendation to you accordingly. And then you say, wait a minute, where is personalization? So personalization comes into the second stage. Basically, as I told you, different companies, they have different preferences in terms of how fine-grained they would like their accounting to be. So in terms of model design, we take the model that we have walked you through in the previous slide, and that's the baseline model, and then we apply transfer learning. So the way that we apply transfer learning is that we say, well, the baseline has provided wonderful, good vectorization of our transactions. So coming out of this error, you have a vector space. We also have the personal data from any given user, and that data can be used to fine-tweak the model, and that's the personal model. So the personal model is typically very simple. We can do by logistic regression even, or support vector machine or XGBoost. The personal model is a very tiny model which draws the decision boundary within the vector space that the baseline model has defined. So the personal model is actually every single business has its own personal model. We are talking about 2 million personal models in production that is updated potentially on a daily basis. So whatever, as a business owner, my review activity today, it's going to end up in the model by the end of the day. So this is personalization to the extreme. But our journey does not stop here. We were not happy about the daily update. We actually want to enable learning in session in real time. So this is an engineering challenge. Basically, the deep learning model that learns the user feedback, we want it to be able to take effect and immediately generalize it to similar transactions. So imagine the use case as the following. Let's say a user is, I don't know whether people can see this very clearly. For instance, if user modify the session of Lois, they say, well, this goes towards an equipment. Then the moment that this action happens, this learning is generalized into similar transactions. For instance, Home Depot, this change would propagate to Home Depot. So this way, it becomes a user delight. The user does not need to handle the similar transactions, repeat the same action over and over again. It's done automatically for our users. So thanks for amplifying it. So real-time customer delight. So how does all these pieces fit together? We design an architecture as the following. So from the banking, we have a transaction categorization service which operates in batch mode. So it takes the 200 transactions all in one batch and then generate a baseline recommendation. The recommendation is guided either by the population model if the user is brand new and does not have personal data associated with this user just yet, or they can have a personal model. So if they have already sufficient amount of data, then there would be a personal model built for this user. So therefore, depending on the maturity of this user, it is either the populational model or the personal model providing offline recommendation. And then once user enter into QuickBooks, the user put in user labels, and that user label happens in session learning. The changes would propagate to all similar transactions happening in real time. So this is how our system works. So the effect of this is that we elevate the recommendation accuracy by 12 percentage point. And then overall, we are saving 4 million user hours for the categorization alone. Okay, all right, so that's the second piece, which is bank connection gets transactions right. And then the third piece is basically the monthly review process. So as I mentioned, Not all transactions are created equal. So some transactions are more complex than others. So what do we mean by a complex transaction? So here's an example. So let's say you purchase a MacBook Pro, a laptop from Apple. So the system would recommend something as office expense, office supply. And that's, in ballpark, that is right, because Apple also sell peripherals like, iPod, chargers, and so on, and office supply is reasonable. On the other hand, this is not in compliance with accounting principle. Accounting principle mandates that this item should be an asset. Anything with substantial, that you intend to keep for a certain amount of time, that's considered as asset, not expense. And this is actually important because IRS, which is the Internal Revenue Service, the tax agency, they have different rules for asset or for expense. So expense, they can be written off. And then assets, they need to go through a depreciation process. So if you got this wrong, if you hit this confirm button without user attention on this, then this is going to bring our user into trouble. So we really need to get this transaction right. And then there are also other transactions that is what we call as low content. So what do we mean by low content? Let's say I pay Noah $500. And on a check. So from the bank statement, you don't know how this transaction should be recorded because it could be that Noah invested $500 in my company. So, and then I'm paying her back. Or it could be the other way around. Noah has a company and I decided to invest in her company. So either direction can explain for the $500. So the only way of getting this transaction right is through this process. Basically, we will say, well, the $500, I don't know what that is about. QuickBooks need to direct the user attention onto these transactions to say, okay, Julia, tell me what is this transaction is about. And then I will say, oh, it's actually I'm investing in Noah's company. So this guided question and answer flow is pretty much the only way of extracting the information from the user. However, we can't do this for all transactions, and not all transactions deserve such user attention. So therefore, we use machine learning to guide users through this workflow. Down below, it is the directing user attention to the transactions that need them. And then the upper branch is basically majority of the transactions, they are actually simple. And for those simple transactions, we can automate them as much as possible. So for simple transactions, we organize data into similar groups, and then we invite user attention to teach us only a few teaching examples and automate the rest. And through the top line, basically 50% of transactions got added to books automatically. And then the down below one is the lengthy, the more elaborate approach. We want to minimize the traffic on this one and only those ones that we really need. So that's basically the review process. Okay, so I've showed you how we categorize the transaction and how we invite user to review the transaction. So that's pretty much for accounting automation. And now let me zoom out a little bit. Apart from accounting automation, what are the other AI ML applications that we are building? I've told you the stats. 33% of the customers, they struggle with cash flow. And then many of them also struggle with getting new customers, getting financial help, and so on. So what are we doing about them? So getting customer is the number one priority for small businesses. And for that, our MailChimp colleagues, they are helping small business customers attract their customers. And then the technology that we are doing is propensity modeling, retention models, and also content generation to cater to the right audience. Because each audience, there's perhaps different ways of addressing them. So the content generation is very important. The second major problem is managing cash flow. So cash flow is a problem that many small business struggle with. So we have built cash flow forecasting and planning tool to help small business managing their cash flow. And then the technology that we are using is time series analysis, predictive models, and reinforcement learning for planning. And finally, for getting expert financial help. So let's say you have certain questions and you would like to have expert help on this. The technology that we are using is natural language processing, document extraction and understanding, demand forecasting, semantic search, and so on. So I hope by now you have get the sense of like the breadth of the problem that we are considering. And that actually brings me to the conclusion of this talk. Basically, we are doing our best to help our customers, try to bring them to prosperity. Yep. And I think we have time for a couple of questions.
Hi, I loved your talk. Thank you. You were talking about automating transactions, and I was curious, as a very large company who probably has a large proportion of small businesses using your accounts, if and how do you use the information that businesses supply on themselves, either publicly or privately, to use in this automation transaction?
So how are we using the data, you mean?
Yeah, I'm just curious if you're using it, and if so, then how? Because like if I have a shop for clothes and you have a shop for threads, then maybe I'm buying threads from you and you can automate this transaction just from knowing what your business is doing.
Yeah, so we are very meticulous about data and also data privacy. So first, let me say we are leveraging the data on either on the populational level, or we are building the model for you for your own use. So there's no personal identifiable information either in the model or in the system. Yeah.
Thank you.
You said, hi, thank you. You said before that there is a general model that you use when there's not enough data for using the user-specific model. So when is the decision to use the user-specific model? Is it based on the quantity of data, or do you have like a special matrix for the quality of data to decide to use the specific model?
We actually experimented with this a little bit. Right now, the system settles on the maturity and on the volume of the data. So maturity means that you have to be sufficiently, with QuickBooks for a certain amount of time, minimal amount of time. And then the volume means that you have to at least have a certain number of transactions for you to get the models trained. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.